Welcome to the fourth episode of the Box Jumper Podcast. This time I'm joined by Mark Bellefleur of CrossFit YQM. Not only is Mark an experienced CrossFit coach, but he is also a partner in his own affiliate, CrossFit YQM in Moncton, New Brunswick, and he is the organizer of the D-Town Throwdown, a very successful and wildly fun team competition hosted at YQM, entering its sixth year, with the event coming up in August. Being an event organizer myself, albeit not a CrossFit event yet, I was keenly interested in speaking with Mark about what it's like to put on an event, what some of the challenges are, and to learn a little bit about how he has crafted D-Town into a success. As always, I'm your host, John Sainamond. I myself am a CrossFit Level 1 trainer and Catalyst Athletics L1 certified weightlifting coach, a master's athlete, a husband, a dad, and a small business owner in Bedford, Nova Scotia, Canada. With this podcast, I'm talking to people from all corners of the CrossFit and extended fitness community about getting healthy, happy, fit, and staying active and independent, and all the other great benefits of making fitness part of your life. It's time to use your brain to pick up something heavy, put it down, and repeat. You know the drill. We'll start in 10 as I chat with Mark Bellefleur about channeling his inner Dave Castro to come up with interesting ways to challenge and excite the CrossFit community with a bit of friendly competition. Thanks, Mark, for joining me. I really appreciate it. I know you've got a lot on your plate, especially as your upcoming competition starts getting closer and closer. Before we even start talking about D-Town and what got you to the point that you're at with that event now, I thought I'd back up a little bit and just find out a little bit more about who you are and you know what your background in sport is before you became involved even in CrossFit.
Background in sport, I guess, when and all throughout high school or school, I played hockey, played softball, played baseball, played pretty much any sport I could I could do when I was in school. So once I got to university, played a little bit of hockey, played a half or close to a year of senior hockey back home, and then I put away the skates, and I haven't played hockey since. And for about 7 years before starting CrossFit, I did just about nothing.
Like so many of us, once we get into our professional lives and you know, family and work wind up taking up so much of our time. So how did you become involved in CrossFit?
One my friend and a colleague invited me. They said, "Yeah, we're gonna try this. There's a CrossFit gym there in Dieppe, and we're gonna give it a try. You want to join us?" And I decided to do it because I hadn't been doing anything for a long time, and went in it not knowing anything about it. So yeah,
So you hadn't really heard anything about CrossFit prior to giving it a try with your friends?
No, that was in 2009. So no, I hadn't heard anything back then.
Pretty much the early days, or at least certainly by the time it got to Canada anyway, that still would have been very early on in the whole progression of the sport.
Yeah, it was.
So what was your first impression when you first walked into a CrossFit gym, and what was the environment like back then?
Back then, it was pretty intimidating when you stepped into a gym and you hadn't done anything for a long time. People were flying on rings, doing pull-ups, lifting weights. It wasn't as organized as you would see nowadays in gyms. It was pretty much a free for all when you got there. you met with the gym owner or whoever the coach was and said, "Yeah, I'd like to try it out," and we tried it out. It was a 3-round workout. I did 1 round, almost died, took a break for a round, and then decided to do the last round. So ended up doing 2 out of the 3 rounds, and the next day I showed up again, and the rest is history. I never stopped going.
Nice. So back then, your very first WOD, what was the structure like compared to what we would consider to be today's modern WODs?
Back then, it would have been just pretty much a Metcon. So it was just a workout that was on the board. There was a warm up that was listed, and you did it on your own, but it wasn't class structure where the coach leads the whole class. So it was pretty much some people started every 10, 15 minutes. So you had friends, yeah, you want to start, yeah, let's go. That's about it.
Oh, okay. Little sort of the open gym structure that I guess a
Pretty
lot
much,
of
yeah.
places have now.
Yeah,
Yeah. Workout on the board, start on your own, finish on your own.
that's right.
Wow. So how did you manage to summon the strength to stick with it then?
Probably because I was out of shape and I knew I needed it, and the competition aspect, the community aspect of going to a CrossFit gym pretty much hooked me in, and that's how I stuck around.
And it was pretty vibrant even back then.
Yeah, yeah. And CrossFit. When I started, it was a CrossFit Dieppe, and there are whole bunch of good athletes there. So you just made started making friends slowly, and you'd show up at the same time these people were there, and you'd work out at the
Right.
same time. Yeah.
Did it immediately affect your life outside of the gym as well?
Well, like it affected it as in a positive way. So I started getting more confidence. Started wanting to do more outside fitness stuff. So started biking
Mhm.
more. Started doing activities outside the gym that I had stopped doing. So that's the way it affected me.
So what was your progression to becoming a coach in CrossFit?
After a year of doing it, I went all in. So I'd watch every journal video, every journal article I'd read. Like I watched all the old videos. Well, old videos back then. There was not a ton of old videos,
Right.
but that pretty much hooked me in, and I wanted to be a coach. So about a year later, in 2010, I went to do my level one in Boston, because back then there was not
Right.
level ones
Yeah.
available in Canada. Pretty much, it was Boston or anywhere outside in the U.S. So I took the car and went down there and attended my level one. And when I got there, it was pretty much the all star team of level one coaches that that I got. Uh, I got there on Saturday morning. There was Chris Spieler, Ben Bergeron, Heather Bergeron, Adrian
Oh, wow.
Bosman, uh, uh, what's his name? James Hobart, Austin Maliolo, and there was somebody else. But that was the all star team for me when I showed up. It was like heaven for me.
Wow.
Yeah,
All names that are so readily associated with the CrossFit
yeah,
community for so long now, especially for those of us that have only been around for a few years comparatively.
yeah.
You look back at those early days, and those are the names that immediately come up.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's a pretty impressive community to get started with. So, did you wind up starting coaching right after you got your L1? Did you go back to CrossFit Dieppe as a coach?
Yeah, when I got back, I immediately got onto the roster, let's say, and I started coaching. I think it was one night a week. I would coach. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It takes a
How
while.
did you find? Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, jumping right into it. It takes you a good year. Well, back then it was a little different than now, but it takes you a good year to 2 years to get comfortable in front of a class and being having the confidence to see flaws, identify flaws, and teach people how to
For
move
sure.
better. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So how did you wind up migrating from? Well, let me even before I get to that. So did you after you did your L1? At what point did you start thinking, hey, I might actually like to be an owner of a gym? Was that before you got your L2 and some of your subsequent training, or was it right away where you starting to think about the idea of owning your own affiliate?
I got my L2, would have been 4 years ago. So yeah, 4 years ago. So I was at the new gym back then. So
Right.
yeah, I just went there thinking just to progress, and it's the next step you have to take when you want to be a better coach. And I went in it not knowing anything, and when you get there, you get pretty much humbled. Not sure if you've done your L2, but They,
Not yet. I'm considering it.
it's one of the best courses out there, and it humbles you, but you learn a lot by going there. Yeah.
Hmm. When did you start the idea of starting your own gym? I mean, I know you have a partner,
Yeah.
Matt Bork, in YQM. When did all that come about, and what was the progression into having your own gym?
So the winter of I'm not sure when it was, 5 years ago. That was 2013. So winter of 2013, we organized the first 2013 or 2012. I organized the Blizzard Beatdown. So I did that for CrossFit Dieppe, and after that competition, maybe a month or two after that, Matt approached me. He's the one that approached me to. He wanted to open his own box, and he asked me if I wanted to be a partner, and I didn't take me long to accept. He just wanted me to help him out because I had a lot of interest in programming, doing these competitions. So he saw the value of having me along with him in his gym.
Right. Was the competition environment something that you always saw as running in parallel to the development of your new affiliate?
Well, we saw it as a good marketing. It's a good marketing tool for the gym. And it's a good community tool. So at the point where I am right now, it's an easy organization to endeavor. It's not hard for me. I don't have to do a lot because all of my things have been done for a while. This is year 6 with the D down, so it's a cake, pretty much a cakewalk for me when organizing one of these.
Is the maturity of the CrossFit community in New Brunswick one of the reasons that it comes together fairly easily for you? I mean, certainly CrossFit has been in New Brunswick for a long time compared to at least the number of gyms was significantly higher earlier
Yeah,
in New Brunswick than it was in Nova Scotia, for example.
yeah. Moncton just
So
celebrated
you've had a long time to develop.
yeah, Moncton just celebrated their 10th year, I think. So yeah, it's been here for a while.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that make it a little bit easier because you know the community is really solid, and you're bringing in a cross section of people that have a significant amount of experience, but you're also bringing in a lot of people that are fairly new to the sport and trying it out trying out a competition anyway for the first time.
I think that what makes it easy to sell the D Town is the fact that it's a 4-person competition, and
Mm,
you're not as intimidated as if you were on your own when you're going to an individual competition. So you have the other 3 people
yep.
to uplift you, to help you out. So that's an easier sell. There's levels to, like, we have the scale division, the masters, and the RX division. So you have your choice of where you fit in there. So that makes it an easier sell. But that's the biggest concern for me every year, is always making sure to sell out or close to selling out. I'm not sold out right now. I still have 2 spots remaining, but we're at the biggest number of registrations we've ever had for the competition. So
Right. Was making it a team competition that component of accessibility of a team competition as opposed to individual a conscious choice in when you established the event in the
yeah,
first
team
place?
was always our choice because it makes it easier to organize. Equipment wise, you can get more people, uh, more revenue in when you have a team competition compared to an individual. So let's say I'm running an individual competition. I have, I don't know, 150 competitors. Well, I still have to fit the same amount of heat that I would do for 332 or 328 that I have right now. So
Right.
I can fit a lot more people in the same amount of time. We always wanted to do just a 1 day competition because it's a lot easier to organize. we feel that people don't. I personally feel that people don't get tired after when it's a 2 day competition. After the first day, you're pretty much toasted on the second day, and you don't get the same output from your athletes and your volunteers. Your volunteers are tired after one day. So
I'm sure that's a factor for it as well. Has that been challenging? How's the process of organizing both? I mean, you've got volunteers in sort of two arenas. You've got the judges who are up there, and many of them are themselves competing. Plus, you've got the volunteers that are helping to move equipment around, bring score sheets in, et cetera. I mean, you've got quite a large team to organize. The logistics of ensuring that everything moves smoothly has got to be a real challenge.
It's multifaceted. So on the judges, I last year I tried to not have competitors judge, but that's too much of too difficult to organize. So I tried to have uh, 10 to 12 full time judges that can give a break to the competitor judges, and the rotation isn't that bad. I always try to give them 2 to 3 heats of judging, and then they get 6 off. So I'm not taxing them the whole day. At least I hope I'm not. And for the volunteers, it's the same. The volunteers on that side, I always have mostly it's our members and some outside people that offer up to help, but mostly our members that are just starting out, and it gets them to dip their toes and seeing what a competition is, and usually they volunteer 1 year and the next year they're competing. So
right, yeah, and they're connected to the community that much more.
Absolutely.
How do you manage the equipment needs for an event like this? I mean, you say that it's a little bit easier to manage equipment for a team competition, but you still got to have much more equipment on the floor than you would have readily at your disposal at YQM.
We're pretty much. Last year we had a equipment sponsor, Hatlex. They were awesome, but we were gonna use them again this year. But since we're out on the East Coast, they don't come out here for free, and it was going to cost us over $3,000 just to get him here, and we'd rather spend that money buying equipment than renting equipment. So, what I need when I'm doing a competition like ours, we need 7 setups because I have 7 lanes, and usually I run we have that amount. We have those bars at the gym, so we have at least we have more than 14 bars, but we have those bars at the gym. The plates, we have I think we have everything that we need. So we have 4 45s for each lane. We have 2 25s, 2 15s, 2 4 10s. So we're pretty much set up now that we can host it on our own. It was a lot better. It looked a lot better last year with all that Chinese equipment, but we can manage on our own if we want to, and we can always count on either CrossFit Dieppe, Maritime CrossFit, or CrossFit Moncton to give us a hand if we need some equipment. But we usually just don't need a lot nowadays. The first years we did borrow a lot more than nowadays, but and we always try to reciprocate when they're doing their own competitions.
Right. Yeah. Well, that actually leads me to another question that I wanted to ask. I mean, what's that competitive environment like between not so much just between the gyms, but between competition organizers? Because I mean, there's several competitions that happen over the course of a calendar year in New Brunswick. I'm sure each of them have different gyms that are largely responsible for bringing those events to bear. How much competition is there among the events to make sure that you're able to you're on the verge of selling out your event. There's been other events in New Brunswick as well. Do you bump into each other an awful lot in asking the community to lay down cash to go to a competition?
I don't really concern myself with that. The first years I would I tried to time my things to be the first out with the the registrations or try to have more value to the competitors, so they'd be interested in mine more than others. But I'd rather if they can, attend all the competitions. But it's I don't really concern myself with that. I hope that everybody is successful and everybody can have a good competition, and people have fun at theirs as well as mine. So right now there's St. John that does a couple. Moncton has their hopper. Uh, Dieppe didn't have theirs this year, but I tried jumping in last minute to do it, but it's too much of a. Again, if you want to have 300 competitors, you have to have a big room, and I can't host it at my gym, and hosting it at a other venue while you're falling into having to pay a $5,000-6,000 rent.
Yeah, that's
So
an
it's not
expensive.
worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of the timing considerations? I mean, it seems like you're organizationally anyway. You're announcing a lot of details relating to the competition each year, just as the Open is coming to a close. Is that itself a conscious decision to get people while they're already kind of hopped up and thinking about it?
Yeah, I tried to announce it early, and after the Open is during the Open you won't get anybody's attention, so you don't want to do anything during the Open. And yeah, right after the Open, I tried to announce it and get first out the gate and try to get people registered at my competition right away. If they have to take vacation, they can take vacation. Like there's enough time that they have 4, 5, 6 months to get ready for it. And then once I get to about, I used to have all the workouts released at the same time, but now I try to almost sell out before announcing them. Like my workouts, well, we'll probably talk about it later, but my workouts are usually, I don't care. Not that I don't care. I don't need to have all the teams complete the workouts. It's not a necessity. So that's why I never program AMRAPs. I want something that can be finished or close to being finished. AMRAPs are never ending, and I don't feel the juice is flowing as much. I guess you're just dying for 7, 10, 20 minutes, 15 minutes. So I'd rather you get the work done and be complete.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like your programming is very geared to the time slots that you have programmed. I mean, it seems like it's partly scheduling driven, and to ensure that you have the ability to get the number of lanes through and the amount of time that you have blocked off for workout 1, workout 2, workout 3, and still have enough time left over for semis and for finals. Is it how much of the programming do you wind up modifying or adjusting to suit the time frames, or does it just wind up working out naturally fairly well within the time frames that you have for each lane? Because you commonly certainly in regular programming, going through a particular Metcon in anywhere from 8 to 12 minutes is not terribly uncommon anyway.
I've been lucky, but I also test out the workouts with my better competitors at the gym to see if they can finish it, and if I have to tweak it. Like this year, the ones that have been released, that's the only ones that have been determined. But the ones that were released, I tested them out. I had to tweak it a couple of times just to make sure that it flowed better, and that it wasn't too taxing, but it could be completed. So I have my schedule that's like my time domains are pretty much the same. It's either 10 to 12 minutes or 9 to 12 minutes. So one's going to be about 9-minute cap. The other one is going to be about 12-minute cap. And that allows me to get all my heats completed and then ready for the semis around 2:30 in the afternoon. So, yeah.
Right. Now, last year you had to make some last minute adjustments to accommodate weather, which is a unique challenge to face. Certainly most of the events are indoors, but it is kind of cool to be able to throw people outside. what were some of the things that you were thinking about ahead of time, and how much of that adjustment was possible at the last minute? I mean, I know you had built some walls for us to climb over. Unfortunately, we didn't get to do
No,
that.
we've been playing around with them at the gym, but no. Yeah, the semis were always planned to be outside. We went back and forth when it started raining. I was like, I wanted to
Right.
absolutely do it outside. Then we came up with a plan. Okay, let's do it inside. We tested it out. It would have worked, but then I talked to a few of the competitors. Are you okay with going it outside? And this, yeah, let's go. We wanted to go outside, so we went out in the rain and we winged it, or we had the same workout, but we yeah, some of the stuff like the dumbbell snatches were supposed to be done outside next to your sled, but we couldn't do that. We would have had people just dropping stuff. So yeah, there's a little bit of juggling act when we're doing these. We hope that it works, and I love going outside because the atmosphere is different, and it's a bit crammed up in the gym when there's 200 people watching and 200 competitors or 300 competitors.
Well, it's nice to have that subtle energy change in having people transitioning from outside to inside and back and forth too, which I thought was kind of a cool thing to have on the radar for last year. And yeah, I mean, the weather didn't entirely
No,
cooperate,
that
but
was the first year.
it was still really fun.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you roll the dice. How often can the weather really
Yeah.
cause a problem? I've run a 10 or for the last year was my 10th year doing a 5K that I organized here in Bedford, and out of the 10 years, I think we only had rain 3 times. So
Yeah, it's a roll of the dice.
The odds are in your favor generally.
Yeah.
It sucks
it
when
does,
it
but
happens.
hey, people remember it, and it makes for great photos.
Oh, that's for sure. Yeah. What has been the relationship that you've had with sponsors for an event like this? I mean, every event has some degree of business sponsorship. Some of them specifically, particularly in the CrossFit industry, are very specific to athletes and equipment suppliers and so forth, or clothing suppliers. But do you wind up getting a lot of interest in sponsorship from other businesses that are just really keenly interested in the athletes and the folks that are coming into town? What kind of sponsors do you pursue, or do they just wind up coming to you now with a successful event like this?
No, it's still a struggle for sponsorship, to be honest, because we're out in Moncton. I don't know if it's better in Halifax, but in Moncton, it's a struggle because most of the CrossFit affiliated or CrossFit type sponsorships or companies are out in Montreal or Toronto, and
They're going
and
for the
they
big
don't
markets.
want it. It's too much of an expense to come out on the East Coast for a one-off competition. So we
Right.
we end up either not getting them to come, or they send us they send us a coupon or something, and I'd rather not have something like that. I've been lucky in the past 5 or 6 years since we opened. We've been working with the Filthy 50 for our apparel. They give us a small break on our apparel for the competition, and they make great stuff. Like people don't. I've never heard anybody, well, not that I know of, complain about the apparel that we give out at the competition, and so we love working with them. Zevia, I was lucky 2 years ago. I just emailed them on their general page, and they asked me how many cans of Zevia I wanted. Then they sent it to me. And last year I asked for more. They sent more, and this year they're going to send as much as last year. So it's just I'm trying to continue that on. And Popeyes, the supplement store here in Moncton, or one of the supplement stores, he started out sponsoring us from this first year, and they've kept on helping us out every year. So a lot of them, because it's a team competition, a lot of sponsors, it's hard for them because we have to give out prizes to 4 times 3 winners, so that's 12 times 3 divisions, so that's 36 people compared to if you have 3 podiums of one of singles, well, that's only 9 people. They can give out 9 tubs of protein. So that's
That's interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought about the fact that it does make the sponsorship ask more significant, particularly if they're providing anything in the way of prizes.
So our thinking, I guess, at YQM, or me, Matt, and now Dan, we'd rather be known to give out, like, we give out over $6,000 in cash, or close to $7,000 in cash. So that's from the registrations. We'd give it all out back. So we'd rather give out cash. People have money in their hand, and they have it, and it's not just a tub of protein and something that they won't eat. So we'd rather give that as a prize.
Yeah. What are your long-term plans for D-Town? Do you have, is it just to continue to build it up as a successful event and make it as profitable as it can within the confines of hosting it at YQM?
Right now, it's the most economical way to make some money. You're not making millions of dollars. A lot of people speculate, oh, well, they're getting this much amount of money when they're registrations, but you got to factor in, like, we're giving away $7,000.
There's a lot of cash that goes out the door too.
At least $7,000 in T-shirts, because we give out T-shirts to the competitors and to the judges and volunteers. So take that out of the equation, then whatever equipment we're gonna buy some this year. It's all depending on what I decide to do for the finals and semifinals. That's undecided yet, but so take that out, and then you're left with a small profit, which is, we have a goal what we want to hit as far as a profit every year. So I'd like to go out and have it at a bigger venue, because at where I'm at right now at 84 teams, that's about the max I could host at the YQM. I see ourselves doing this for maybe a couple years at this rate, and if we decide, and if by any chance there's interest from bigger sponsors, then we could move it up and go to a bigger venue. There's always possibilities, like with Filthy 50, he the guy that owns it organizes his own competition in Montreal, and we could always partner up and try something on the bigger end, because they're on they have a big competition as well. So there might be a circuit or something that could come about. So there's I've seen a couple popping up there in Halifax. Don't know much about them, but they're being organized. They sound big, but I haven't heard anything about them yet. So
there was one that was organized, at least it was initially launched for the middle of the summer, and unfortunately the registration just didn't wind up getting to the point that they wanted prior to their cutoff, and so they wound up canceling and regrouping for next year. It'd be nice, because there's actually not all that many competitions here. There's a few. So I was certainly looking forward to that one. It was another one that was not a team competition; it was a partners competition. So it again has that element of shared risk, shared responsibility, a little bit accessible. So on that front, I was kind of looking forward to it.
I'd love personally to be able to compete in my own competition, but since I'm organizing and emceeing, I can't do that, and I know all the workouts.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Yeah, in 10 years of running my 5K, I never once actually got to run it myself.
Oh, that's a good thing. Yeah.
But it's one of those things. I mean, you take the enjoyment out of it in any way you can when you're organizing. And I mean, I'm sure you've gotten plenty of thanks from the community and lots of very happy competitors. Particularly those that are new to the community. I remember the first year that I came to D-Town was 3 years ago, and the two editions of it ago. And that year I had only just been in CrossFit for a little while, so I had done the judging course. I had judged during the Open. I was not an L1 yet, and so I just came up to judge and be part of the community.
I remember that.
And then last year I came up as a competitor and a judge. and this year doing the same thing. So, it's one of those things that you kind of make progress with over time, particularly as you get to know the community and you start to form friendships with athletes that you like to hang out with both at the gym and outside of the gym. And when you're in your 40s and you get to go on a road trip with a bunch of athletes, it's a pretty unique feeling.
Yeah, and
because it's not something that you've experienced for
at our
a
age,
while.
we judge or we coach. That's about what we do when I'm planning. I'm trying to maybe qualify for the team competition at the Waterpalooza. We have a few guys there that just for fun. They're going not the RX division, but the scale division, just because they don't have masters. But any masters competition I can see out there, I'm trying to get out there and have a good time for a weekend there. So yeah.
So are there any surprises with D-Town that you can hint
No,
at the
I
moment?
can't hint at anything. As far as surprises, the only people that know when we do these workouts is myself, Dan, and maybe another person, but that's about it. Nobody ever knows or sees, or even the judges don't see you were a judge. Even the judges don't see the workouts. We hand them out the card, and here, this is what's going to happen, and they see the explanation at the same time that all the athletes see them. So that's one thing I love about that I get the joy from seeing the people's faces. But we always have to top ourselves, so I have to figure out something, either a piece of equipment or a movement or something to top or do something different from the past 5 years. So that's my biggest challenge right now.
Right. Do you plan to release little hint photos like Castro does, or just
No, it's not
your
my
thing?
thing, and I'm not robotic like he is when he's talking. Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to coming up to Moncton for the competition. I think it's going to be a great time as usual. It's always exceptionally well organized. Whether you're competing on the floor, or whether you're a judge or a volunteer, you always know where you need to be at the time you need to be there. And I think that's the mark of great organization. And so, I think the experience that you've had in organizing these events, particularly, now coming into the 6th year, is really only serving to benefit the event further. And so, I wish you all the best of luck with the competition going forward. And, I'm trying to learn as much as I can about exactly how that whole process comes together, because it really is a very unique challenge to organize an event with this many people participating. It's not like a 5K where everyone shows up and starts together and finishes at whatever time that they wind up taking to complete the course. This is a very regimented exercise with time blocks for people to compete in, and you move those people off the floor and you bring new people in. So it's a very unique challenge that's specific to the way that CrossFit works, particularly in a competitive environment.
I have my daughter that's on me all the time, so she's the timekeeper. I've had her for the last 2 or 3 years, and she holds my feet to the fire. So I make sure I'm on. Well, she keeps me on time, and she says, "Well, we're 2 minutes late, 3 minutes late," and she's on me all the time and say, "You got to announce and let's go." And so I have her following me around, which is a big help. And when we don't stop if we're ahead of time, we just keep going because we know we're gonna get behind time somewhere. So if we're 2-3 minutes ahead, we keep on going. Yeah. And usually around noonish, we fall behind about 15 minutes, and then we get it back when we get to the semifinals. Yeah, that's right.
Get back on track. Yeah. All right, Mark, thank you. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. Hopefully lots of people that are interested in CrossFit competitions, whether as a competitor or eventually as potentially an organizer of their own competition, whether it's an inbox competition or something grander, will get some value out of hearing the story that you had
and
to
they
tell
can
today.
Always get in touch with me if they need any help or they want a few points of advice. I'm always open to helping out. All right.
That sounds great.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right. Thanks a lot. The clock has run out. I hope you enjoyed this latest episode of the Box Jumper Podcast. Please subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you get upcoming episodes automatically as I'm joined by more guests to talk about CrossFit, fitness, and health. If you like this episode, do me a solid and write me a 5-star review on iTunes. I hope to share some reviews and comments in future episodes. And of course, you can email me feedback or ideas at info@boxjumper.ca or visit boxjumper.ca for more fitness-related stuff outside the podcast as well. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at the handle @BoxJumper40. If you want to connect with Mark at YQM, look him up on social media with the handle @CrossFitYQM or the competition handle @DTown Throwdown. Thanks for listening. Lots more on the way. Until then, stay healthy, WOD happy, and WOD often.